Ravan and I descended from the chariot, he leading, I following with docile footsteps. This was because he had asked me very politely whether I would prefer to do as he instructed or be carried over his shoulder like a sack of rice. As I set foot on Lankan soil, it was as though my mind split in two. One part was still in shock at how rapidly, because of just three wrong decisions, my life had plummeted into calamity. The other part, perhaps, to keep myself from going mad with fear, observed everything around me with a cool and critical eye. A great cheer went up as soon as we descended from the flying chariot. Clearly, the crowd of Rakshasas waiting there had known of Ravan's quest and could see that he had been successful. Ravan was surrounded by felicitators, male and female, bowing and applauding. A little distance away, a chorus of youngsters burst into a song of welcome. I would wanted to believe that he was a tyrant, but I could see that he was dearly loved and he was a good leader, equally gracious to all, acknowledging greetings whether they were offered by the aristocrat or the more humble citizens. Ravan's people were handsome and tastefully attired. No clothing made from human skins were to be seen. Subtle contrast in their attire suggested differences of social class. Though we humans had lumped them together, these asuras were so distinct from the forest dwelling Rakshasas that they hardly seemed to belong to the same race. Under other circumstances, I would have been interested to learn more about them, but now they were my enemies. All I could think was that if Ram ever made it this far, they would do everything they could to kill him. A little way behind the crowd, two people stood silently. I could feel disapproval emanating from them. The male Rakshasa was younger than Ravan, with a strong facial resemblance to him. The other was a female, slim and tall and regal, dressed in rich, shining garments and many ornaments. But her beautiful eyes were dark with anger and sadness. As Ravan walked over, the male said, "Brother, it is an evil, heedless thing that you have done." Ravan smiled wryly. And here I thought I had achieved something special, avenging our sister without losing a single soldier. This is no joking matter, Ravan's brother said. I consulted the astrologers. They claim that this action of yours will bring about the ruin of our beautiful Lanka. You pay too much attention to the influence of the heavenly bodies, Vibhishan, Ravan said. Have you forgotten that they obey my commands? Even the sun and moon are gatekeepers at my palace. Vibhishan put a hand on Ravan's arm. Please, return her, brother. It is not too late. If you like, I will take her back to Panchavati myself. I am not returning her, Ravan said. Can't you just enjoy this moment of victory instead of thinking of the gloomiest possibilities? Throwing off Vibhishan's hand, he brought me over to the woman. This is Mandodari, my chief queen, he said. Of all the women in my life, she is the wisest. Though I, being less wise, don't always listen to her counsel. My lord, Queen Mandodari said in a strained voice, I need to speak with you urgently. I have important information regarding this woman that I need to. You shall tell me all about it, Ravan said, and I will give you my full attention. But first, I need to take care of some state matters and then some personal ones. Pointing to me, he said, as you can see, this is Sita, my prize. I wrested her from her husband for Surpanaka's sake, but now I have decided to keep her for my own purposes. Take her to my pleasure palace, have her made ready, and have the Yakshini guards keep an eye on her. I will come for her soon. His words sent a chill through me. When Ravan was escorted by his entourage towards a huge, glittering building that I guessed to be the royal court, Mandodari pulled me along to a chariot that was waiting for her. Her grasp on my wrist was rough and she did not speak. Her beautiful chiseled face was schooled to show no emotion, but I could feel anger emanating from her as well as shame. I could imagine how insulting it must be for her, she who was the daughter of a great king, I was sure, to have anything to do with Ravan's latest conquest. Beneath them, I sensed something else, a shimmer of fear. Why should Mandodari be afraid of me, a powerless captive? A charioteer brought us to a gigantic palace glittering with gold and precious stones. The architecture was intricate with features I had never seen in the human world. Musical fountains sang a welcome song as we approached them. Flowering vines carved into the columns released heady perfumes. Walls of sculpted dancers came to life, bending and leaping when I turned my eyes towards them. The palace was guarded by stern and beautiful females, twice as tall as I was. I guessed that they were the Yakshinis that Ravan mentioned. They must have once been the guardians of Indra's court. Forgotten tales from Mithila from the time when Ravan came to try for my hand rose in my mind. He had battled the king of the gods and won. He had probably brought the Yakshinis here after that victory. Did they long for their celestial home as I was now longing for my earthly one? Their impassive faces gave nothing away. How many females were captive here in Lanka? Had they all resigned themselves to their fate? I set my jaw defiantly. I didn't know how I would stand up against the enormous might of the Asura king. But I knew this much. I was going to resist him with everything I had. My first test came as soon as we descended from the chariot. Mandodari gripped my arm once again. Come, she said. There is no time to waste. The king will be here very soon. You must go to the inner chambers. Why? I asked, though I feared I knew the answer already. What is going to happen there? Mandodari's nostrils flared with distaste. The maids will bathe you in perfumed waters and arrange your hair in the latest style. They will dress you in the very best silks and jewels, whatever you want, so that when the king comes, you will look your best. If you please him, you will become one of his consorts, perhaps even his favorite for a while, until he tires of you. She shrugged. Then I had heard enough. I refuse, I said, cutting her off. Drag me into the palace if you must. I refuse to go in of my own will. I love my husband and only him. Ravan may force me shamefully and take my body against my will. I am only a mortal woman after all, but he will never touch my heart. That belongs to Ram forever and ever. Mandodari ignored me and clapped her hands. Two of the female guards came forward, each grabbing one of my arms. They began to drag me forward. In a few moments, they would pull me over the threshold. That, I sensed, would be the end. I guessed that the buildings were constructed magically. Within them, people could no longer exercise their own willpower. They did whatever Ravan wanted them to. Goddess, I thought frantically, is this my destiny? From inside me, an answer rose, powerful as a volcanic eruption. Was it the goddess or my own inner strength? I couldn't distinguish them anymore. You are meant for greater things. Words poured through me then, mine and the goddesses together. Hear me, spirits of the island, the sea and the forest. O gods above, be my witnesses. I hereby curse Ravan and his entire lineage. When Ram comes for vengeance, as he sure will, this entire city will be filled with death and destruction. The smoke will cover even the sun. The stench of bodies will spread beyond the boundaries of Lanka. Only vultures will be here to attend to the dead. Mandodari let go of my wrist as though I had scalded her. Her face was stricken. Turning to the charioteer, she said, Inform the king that he needs to come here at once. It is urgent. Almost immediately, Ravana arrived. How he came, I did not know. One moment he was not there, and then he was. He was dressed resplendently in royal robes of silk with a gem encrusted crown on his head. Mandodari, who had retreated some distance from me, hurried to him, wringing her hands. The woman made a prophecy that Lanka will be destroyed by her husband. You will die, our sons will die, no one would be left even to cremate the dead. That is exactly what I dreamed last night. I was trying to tell you about it earlier, but you wouldn't listen. I saw the entire city in flames. I saw on the ground the severed head of my beloved son, your heir, Meghnad. I saw the goddess Chamundi, who protects our city, ascending to the heavens, her face turned away from my pleas. Send back this witch, this bad luck creature, before she brings ruin on us all. Please, husband, I never complained when you brought other women to Lanka, but this time I am begging you. Weeping, she knelt in front of him. Ravan picked her up gently and whispered consolations to her. He spoke for a while. What he said, I didn't know, only that she looked as sad as before and newly hopeless. Ravan beckoned to one of the gods, who helped her into the chariot which took her away. All through, she kept her eyes averted from mine. Ravan must have gestured to the gods, for now they stepped back far enough so that we could have a private conversation. I tensed, fisting my hands, considering a sudden attack. But I knew it would be useless. He was too strong, and additionally, his magical powers had grown to their fullest now that he was home. Better to conserve my strength and my dignity. I looked around, checking if there was a place to flee to. But there were guards all around, and beyond them, the greatest god of all, the ocean. For the moment, I was trapped. I was afraid Ravan would take advantage of this and lay his hands on me. But surprisingly, he didn't do this. Instead, he maintained his distance and spoke in measured tones. As you know, Sita, I captured you for the purpose of vengeance. But having watched you since the time I took you from your dwelling, I am filled with admiration for your fiery spirit. I no longer want to keep you imprisoned in my dungeons as I had originally intended. Nor can I bear to kill you, as my ministers are advising me, and send your corpse back to the forest so that your husband stops searching for you. And I refuse to return you as my brother Vibhishan counsels. Instead, I want you to become my chief queen, raised above all others, to reign supreme in my palace. Anything you ask will be given to you, all comforts and luxuries, all wealth, all pleasures you can imagine, here on earth or even in the court of Indra, which he yields to me whenever I decide to go there. Only say yes to me. These entreaties were far worse than the threats Ravan had flung at me earlier. The husky desire in his voice at once sickened, frightened, and angered me. His hot gaze burned my skin until my body trembled with disgust. I covered my face with my sari. I curbed my longing to rage against Ravan. It would do no good to engage with him, which I guessed was what he wanted. Keeping my voice neutral, I said, I love Ram with my whole heart. With my last breath, I will be faithful to my marriage vows no matter what you say or do. Ravan said, I could take you against your will, you know. I am no saint. I have done it with other women. But in your case, I don't want that. It is not your body I crave, but your heart. I will give you a year to change your mind. At the end of the time, either you will become my queen or I will turn you over to Surpanakha, who will love the opportunity of designing for you whatever kind of death she thinks you deserve. Ram will never be able to reach Lanka. You might as well accept that. And even if he does, how will he destroy me? I, who have defeated even the gods, to whom Brahma himself has given the boon of indestructibility. He clapped his hands and the Achilles glided forward. Take her to my pleasure grove. Make sure she is comfortable but surrounded by the fiercest guards. Here are my orders. They are not to cause her bodily harm, but they are to do everything they can to break her spirit. With this, he threw me a final fiery glance of mingled hatred and desire and disappeared into swirl of light, much as he had done lifetimes ago, it seemed, in King Janak's flower bedecked marriage hall in Mithila. The memory of that innocent, happy time was like being pierced with a sword. Two Ichnis took me by the arm with rough impassivity and led me forward. Their fingers were hard as stone and as cold. The chill penetrated my entire body as I stumbled through the dark, for with the disappearance of Ravan, the sunlight had suddenly fled. More Rakshasa magic, no doubt. Ram, beloved, I cried silently, wherever are you in the hour of my need? But I already knew where he was, very far away, hacking his way through the wilderness, searching frantically for me, moving farther away with every step because he had no idea where I had vanished to. On we went through a blackness deeper than night. Sometimes it seemed we climbed up a hillside, though in the murk no vista was visible. Sometimes we waded through muddy swamps where unseen slimy creatures brushed up against me, making me flinch. Once or twice I was certain we walked single file through narrow underground tunnels. Where were we going? How large was this island? Or was this more Rakshasa magic? When I was sure that in my fatigue I could not walk another step, we came to a stop. We were among trees whose leaves whispered in the wind, Sita, Sita, Sita. Or did they say, sorrow, sorrow, sorrow? One of my guards produced a torch, and in its smoky flame, I saw that I was in a grove of enormous trees laden with large red flowers. I recognized them. A hysterical laugh spiraled up inside me at the irony of the universe, for they were Ashoka trees a name that meant joy. A god pushed at me roughly, causing me to fall to my knees. Yeah, you, what are you laughing at? She cried in a guttural voice. I looked up to see that at some point of my journey, the Achilles had melted away and been replaced by the ugliest Rakshasis I had ever seen. They must have come from a very different tribe, for they were as unlike as could be from Mandodari or Kamarupini Surpanaka, or even the crowd that greeted us when Ravan and I landed in Lanka with fanged teeth, long curved nails, red eyes, and hair that spiraled wildly from their heads, waving like serpents. Lakshman would have felt vindicated to see them, for they were everything he believed Rakshasas to be. The thought of my dear brother in law twisted inside me, bringing tears to my eyes. If only I hadn't maligned him and forced him away from me and then disobeyed him wilfully, I pictured him accompanying Ram in his futile search, doubly distressed because of worry for me and sorrow for his brother. Oh, Lakshman, can you ever forgive me? Crying now, is she? Another of the Rakshasis spat. She hasn't had anything to cry about yet, the stupid creature. But she will. Oh, yes, she will. The Rakshasis crowded around me, examining me in the light of more flaming torches. This pale, puny human, one said, why does our king consider her so important? For her, I was taken off satyral guard duty and brought here. Another said, hissing in disgust. Is she a traitor? A spy? A third asked. She poked at me with her toes. Why don't we just make a meal of her? That will keep her from causing any further trouble. Though scrawny as she is, she won't make more than a couple of mouthfuls. No, no, girls, said a tall, muscular Rakshasi whose matted grey hair attested to her age and experience. She was clearly their leader. The king has told us what to do. It is not for the likes of you to be questioning him. She gestured at me to sit up. I am Trijata, the chief of the guards. Make yourself comfortable, dearie. There is a nice little bower behind this grove. Our king said you can stay there. I recommend it. From what I gathered, you will be here a long time and the mosquitoes in the grove are no joke. Of course, the best thing would be to change your mind and accept our king as your mate and save us all a lot of trouble. Never, I said, putting every bit of strength that was left in me into my voice. And I refused to accept any comforts offered by that despicable monster. The Rakshasis muttered angrily, displeased with this show of disrespect to their king. Some moved forward threateningly, bearing fangs. But Trijata stopped them with her upraised hand. We shall see, she said philosophically. Let me just tell you this much. I have lived a long time and I have never seen a woman resist our king. Sooner or later, they all give in. She clapped and ordered one of the guards to bring me some food. I turned from it in disgust. I was afraid she might try to force feed me, but she shrugged and muttered something about Did I think I was too good for food like this and ate it herself? Trijita said, no matter, she will eat when she is hungry enough. I lay down under a large Ashoka tree, using its root as a pillow. I turned away from the Rakshasis and begged it to protect me. The tree rustled and sighed. I felt its flowers drop on me like tears, for it was as helpless as I was. Suddenly, there were bright lights around me and a musical voice asking, where is she? I turned warily and opened my eyes. A Rakshasi stood in front of me, not as beautiful as Mandodari, but clearly of the same class. She was dressed with restrained elegance, and there was kindness in her face. Behind her stood several attendants carrying trays and boxes. Lady Sarma, Trijata exclaimed in surprise. What are you doing here? The queen sent me with some proper food for Sita, the woman said. She can't possibly eat half cooked food like you guards do. To me, she said, I am Vibhishan's wife. I am sorry to meet you under such circumstances, but I want to make your stay in Lanka as comfortable as possible, even though I see you have decided not to stay in the bower. She looked at me more sympathetically than anyone had in this place. Sarma gestured to her maids, who came forward with quilts for me to lie on and silver platters on which were arranged many delicate dishes, both sweet and savory. My mouth watered at the smell, for I was very hungry. I appreciated Sarma's gentleness to me, but I forced myself to turn away. I thank you for your trouble, I said. I am sorry to reject the queen's gifts, but I have taken a vow not to eat or drink anything while in captivity, nor accept any comforts. The best help you can give me is to persuade Ravan to return me to my husband. Sarma sighed. I would certainly do that if it were within my powers, for my sake as well as yours. But the king is infatuated with you. He chastised my husband severely for suggesting that you be sent back, and he refuses to listen to the queen as well. I will come back tomorrow in case you change your mind about eating. At the very least, I hope we can be friends. After she left, I turned my back to my captors and lay down. Sympathetic though Sarma was, I didn't think I could be friends with anyone in this prison. How I longed for Urmila's arms around me, or my mother Sunayana's lips on my forehead. But thinking of them only made me feel more alone. I pressed my cheek into the ground and spoke to the only one who remained with me in this hellish place. Give me your strength in this place of sorrow and fear, Mother Earth, you who protected me when I was a helpless infant, I whispered. Give me the courage to bear my imprisonment until Ram comes. But how long would that take? And how would I be able to keep my fasting vow against which my body was already rebelling until then? I tossed and turned for a long time in spite of my exhaustion. When I finally fell into a troubled sleep, a dream came to me. In it, a god appeared carrying a small golden bowl. I am Indra, he said. I bring you Sudha, the nectar of the gods. Drink. It will keep you from starving. Be strong and patient. Ram is coming, but it will take time. Even in the dream, I knew enough to be suspicious. Why should I believe you? Perhaps this is more of Ravan's magic, aimed to trick me into breaking my vow. If you are really Indra, show me a sign. Indra bowed his head. His body shimmered. Airavat, the elephant, and the Vajrayudha, the diamond sword, and he was surrounded by gods of his court. I then took the cup. The sweet liquid spread a fiery warmth through my body, but my heart was still troubled. I know what a great warrior Ram is, but how will he know where I am? And even if he manages to find out, who will have the courage to aid him against Ravan? How can Ram cross this ocean filled with monsters whose goal is to kill intruders and protect Lanka? And hasn't Brahma given Ravan the boon of indestructibility? So many questions. Indra sighed. Here is one answer. Ravan is not as indestructible as he thinks he is. Brahma tricked him, making him list all the beings he wanted to be invincible against. Ravan left out a couple of species that he didn't think worth worrying about. What species? Men and monkeys, Indra said. Before I could ask him any more, he hurried on. Have faith. Forces are aligning in the heavens and on earth. But such things don't happen overnight. I will try to appear in your dreams from time to time, but it is difficult to pierce through the Asura magic that shrouds this island. The gods are slippery beings. I awoke to a heavy grey morning filled with the taunts and jeers of my gods, who were even uglier, if that was possible, in daylight than they had seemed the night before. Thanks for listening. Now some word power. Ravan and I descended from the chariot, he leading, I following with docile footsteps. Docile, docile means obedient. Because of just 3 wrong decisions, my life had plummeted into calamity. Plummet, plummet means to fall very quickly and suddenly. Calamity, Calamity, calamity means disaster. A great cheer went up as soon as we descended from the flying chariot. Clearly, the crowd of Rakshasas waiting there had known of Ravan's quest and could see that he had been successful. Quest means pursuit, hunt. Mandodari let go of my wrist as though I had scalded her. Scalded, scalded means injure with very hot liquid. On we went through a blackness deeper than night. Sometimes it seemed we climbed up a hillside, though in the murk no vista was visible. Murk means darkness or thick mist that makes it difficult to see. Vista, vista means view. You, what are you laughing at? She cried in a guttural voice. Guttural. Guttural means horse. Lakshman would have felt vindicated to see them. Vindacat, vindicate means justify. Never, I said, putting every bit of strength that was left in me into my voice. And I refused to accept any comforts offered by that despicable monster. Despicable. Despicable means very unpleasant, wretched. Thanks for listening.